I mean, you had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes. Episode 208. 208. It is a great, great day for MinneZona Sports Live. We have a lot to talk about, and without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., and all the way in St. Cloud, Minnesota at Granite City Studios, Paul Volt, the Shield. What is going on there, Shield?
You know, if we didn't get any indication last week of what it's like to do a podcast while having kids, and if you've seen on social media my picture of holding my 6-month-old while asleep on my lap, well, of course, now about 5-10 minutes before the show started, my 3-year-old really wanted to come say hi and see Matt. And of course, with that, all that getting done in the mix too, he said hi, he showed him his new things, and off he went. So have kids, they say. Try to do a sports podcast while having kids. It's great. It's great. It's so much fun.
It's all good. You know, it's all good.
All
you know,
good.
Case likes to show, you know, all the cool stuff he has that his mom and dad gave him. And, you know, he's got to show it off. You know what I mean? So we appreciate that. And Tate, obviously, you know, he fell asleep during the show. And, hey, you got killing 2 birds with 1 stone, getting stuff done. So we'll give you applause for that. Voldy, we've got Pick'em to announce.
Yes.
We were giving away wow, I'm wearing it right now. How about that?
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. We got it
Weird.
right there.
So
the
weird.
MinneZona 4th of July America hat. Whatever you want to call it, feel free to call it what you want,
Yep.
you know, with the USA. We do have a winner for this week. I thought it was going to be one of the Mikeys, one of the Crepes Mikey or our Mikey for Minnesota Vikings. But no, it was Ellefson. We think we know who it is, but we'll find out. we're gonna find out.
I have no idea. I've thrown it into the world of the internet to see maybe a friend of a friend of a friend that could be this Ellefson. It could very well be the former Vikings tight end Ben Ellefson, for all we know. I have zero idea. I don't know. But we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Yep, we're doing it, man.
We got plenty of the hats, and might as well have it, right?
Exactly.
So, congratulations to Ellefson. We are looking forward to giving you that hat if you exist. But you probably do. I would imagine you do. So we will get that to you soon. So, Voldy, there's a lot to talk about in Minnesota sports. Some good, some really bad, some just not great, and some pretty damn good. So, Tater Tot Hot Take tonight goes from one undefeated team, the Minnesota Vikings, take care of business against those Houston Texans. We'll talk about that at length. And then we're going to move over to from one U.S. bank to Huntington Bank, where the Gophers laid an egg against Iowa. They lose the bacon. They lose Floyd of Rosedale. I've got some thoughts on that. Might be controversial, might be not. We'll see. Lots to talk about with that. And then tonight, where are they now? Voldy. We've got some good ones tonight. We were both saying it. We got one, benrevere, former Minnesota Twin, and yannickngakoue, baby. So we got some, pretty good ones tonight. Obviously, Yannick is still in the league. We'll talk about that as well. And benrevere, who didn't love Voldy, you've been saying it ever since we started to want to do the segment. Who doesn't love benrevere?
Exactly.
I mean, just awesome. So we'll do that. And then Air Raid tonight is pretty stacked as well. A lot of NFL talk that we got going. The Minnesota Wild will be starting up very, very soon. And mattboldy, maybe without mattboldy. So we'll talk about that. Raiders pondering a QB change. No surprise there. Mr. 305 under center. Ooh, new Mr. 305. We'll see what that is. Ceedeelamb apologizes for his antics on the sideline. Talk about that. And to wrap things up there, the Pac-12 Pac-12 poaching teams possibly. So we'll talk about that. And then Shield shoutouts as always. So with that being said, Voldy, we better get it rolling with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
Yes, it is time for Tater Tot Hot Take, and it is with an O. Do not get on us for that. We do know.
See, I mentioned one thing one time, and now it becomes a character trait, apparently.
Hey,
so.
I like it. This is we take this show, we have fun on this show, and we enjoy
exactly.
Going with that. So, as you can see in the lower third, yes, I did kind of take a little bit of a shot at the Houston Texans, but as Beyonce said in that one song, this ain't Texas. This ain't Hold'em. The Minnesota Vikings dominate them Texans 34-7. Yes, sirree, Bob. What a game it was. And yours truly still has a winning record at US Bank Stadium when in attendance. This was a dominating win. Second play of the game. Harrison Phillips puts that big paw up in the air, swats, or the ball hits his hand, it ricochets. Kramu Grugier Hill gets it for the interception, and it was all downhill from there for the Houston Texans. So, with that being said, the domination that was Sam Darnold, 4 tutties. Sam VP, he is actually, breaking news, an MVP. That means that's Nickelodeon's most valuable player. So, Sammy D is getting it done. So, Voldy, Zoners, what were your thoughts on the Vikings dominating victory? What do you got?
I mean, considering what Houston was bringing into this matchup, it was a little bit of a surprise just to see how one-sided it was when it came to offense versus defense. And the Vikings defense, sure, they gave up 300 yards passing overall, but only 38 total yards in rushing. I mean, you had to be very thankful for that, and just the ability that they were able to win a lot of matchups, get pressure out of the backfield as well, with the ability of Jonathan Grenard going up his old squad in Houston. This was just a revenge game on multiple forms. Of course, Stephon Diggs ended up getting 10 catches in the contest. Cam Akers was the leading rusher for Houston with only 21 yards, but Jonathan Grenard ended up getting, he ended up with 3 sacks, defensive player of the week for the NFC. There was a lot of good things. A couple of things that have me a little bit worried towards the tail end of the contest we'll talk about here in just a moment. But, I mean, Sam Darnold did what he was expected in this contest, was to control the ball, hold it, and obviously not give it back to the other side. 181 yards passing, sure. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. You don't turn over the ball. That's a great start. I mean, Aaron Jones got 100 yards rushing. Justin Jefferson had a couple of nice catches, including a touchdown. 4 different receivers with a touchdown in total. Really nice to see the spreading of the wealth in that department. But, I mean, this defense was just playing with its hair on fire each and every way. I mean, 5 total sacks, 3 of them to Grenard. You get, obviously pressure on the quarterback, and CJ Stroud was just completely frazzled throughout the entire game, and there wasn't a whole lot that they could do about it in protection. I mean, there was just constant pressure, tackles for loss as well, almost nearing double digits. Just a real complete effort, especially very strong defensive performance here for the Vikings in that win.
Voldy, I'm so glad you brought up that defense. B-Flow cooked. Again, he absolutely cooked. But Voldy, you said something in our chat while I was at the game when I said cooking. You can't spell cook without what?
K-O-C. KOC was in his bag on Sunday. I mean, it was crazy to see just, again, the spreading of the wealth to multiple receivers. A couple of gutsy calls here and there, going for it on fourth down in a few key situations, but just overall, just staying with the game plan of just distributing the ball, dominating at the line of scrimmage, and it all went according to plan. I mean, sure, Darnold had a couple of questionable, shovel passes here and there that could have very well been into fumbles and recovered by Houston, but luckily enough, the calls were on our side. The defense was rocking. U.S. Bank was allowed to get those false start penalties against, one of the better left tackles in the league, and Laramie Tunsil. There was just a lot going in the right way for the Vikings in that win.
So, and I guess the Wild are playing right now, by the way. 1-0
preseason.
Preseason, obviously. So, but yes, Voldy, you brought up the crowd noise. It got progressively, and I can confirm, because obviously I was there, I can confirm that each time that they had a penalty, it got progressively louder. So after the first one, it's obviously loud, fourth, third down, whatever it was. It just progressively just went boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's just like Laramie Tunsil, it probably feels like crap these past few days. But again, you brought up defensively. I mean, we are getting contributions all around that whole defense. This isn't centered around one guy. This is centered around a whole slew of Minnesota Vikings. One being this game, I felt like the biggest impact was, like you mentioned, Grenard. And I'm surprised on the game plan that the Texans had, because they decided to put a rookie tight end on one Jonathan Grenard. Grenard's been in this league a couple of years now.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful. D'Amico Ryans, D'Amico Ryans and your offensive coordinator, whoever the offensive coordinator is, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you should know by now. You shouldn't do that. Now, the pressure that was given by our Minnesota Vikings was equally impressive, obviously. And, I think the one thing we can't, pass up is they're creating pressure, and they're doing it with Van Ginkel, Grenard. We talked about it with him. And Cam Bynum finally getting into the mix with a nice interception. CJ Stroud didn't know what the hell hit him. And it was pretty evident, obviously, the false start penalties and whatnot. But this defense is elite. And this defense going into Green Bay next week, I think, is going to be, ready for that challenge of it's probably going to be Jordan Love. And that's probably what we're looking at coming next week. So the main thing here is that now that they have beaten those teams that, no one thought they were going to beat. No one thought they were going to beat the Niners. No one thought they were going to beat, I guess some people kind of knew at that point since they won 2 in a row. But again, this is a team that everyone was looking at. Oh, they're possible contenders. They are possible contenders here in the AFC with the Texans. So I was really surprised on how well they dominated every facet of the game. They've only allowed 30 points. through these 3 games. No other team in the NFC North has done that. Not even the Lions. So this is a really good sign, and you want to see that progression because these next 3, Green Bay, the Jets in London, which the Jets are starting to kind of get going here,
which is scary.
Very scary. And you have a bye, which kind of helps in that aspect. Then you have the Lions. But I will say one thing about the Lions. They are banged up. They have a lot of guys who are injured. This week is going to be interesting because they've got a lot of guys out on defense now. They lost Marcus Davenport. Who would have thunk? Marcus Davenport out for the season again?
Man of glass. The man of glass.
And so we think about that, but let's wrap this up with the game. Offensively, Darnold was on fire, hitting wide receivers left. Jalen Naylor stepped up. We loved he's caught a touchdown in every single game so far. Got to keep utilizing him. Utilizing him.
Filling in that number 2 spot in the receiver core quite nicely right now. Even with Jordan Addison, banged up right now. He is a surefire number 2 right now. Even when Addison comes back, he's going to be a very solid number 3 guy for us. And I definitely like to see him stepping up here in a big situation, especially when the Vikings. He could have had 2 touchdowns on Sunday if one of them didn't get called back.
And the one that got called back, I saw the replay on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron Jones. We love you, but that was pretty blatant. But even if he didn't do it, he would have scored anyway because there's nobody there.
Easily.
So, Jalen Naylor, shouts out to him and the way he played. And when you get Addison back, and it sounds like Hawk is on track to come back too. So that's another weapon that you can use. And obviously no Dallas Turner, no Ivan Pace last Sunday. You get those guys back. Looking good. So they had, a bunch of turnovers, things like that. The Vikings forced. Jefferson Jets had 6 receptions, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Aaron Jones, even through the air, 2. 5 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Jalen Naylor, 3 for 31, and a touchdown. And Johnny Munt, what a great grab he had at the goal line there. That was sweet. So the one concern that I have, and obviously I feel like all Vikings fans right now, Sam Darnold's knee. Okay, you have Daniil going in and making getting the hit low a little bit. I don't think it was dirty. That's just my opinion, and I believe Ryan O'Neal quoted after the game said, Daniil's not that type of player, and he actually said, I wasn't trying to go low at him or anything, but the Boo Birds rained down when they put Daniil on the jumbotron. But Voldy, are you? Even though the MRI came back with the bruised knee and everything, isn't it something we should be concerned about here coming up Sunday with Sam Darnold, or do we think, oh, he'll be okay, not a big deal, just a bruised knee? What do you think?
I would be more concerned if this was a short week for the Vikings. Now, if it was a Sunday going into a Thursday or a Monday going into a Sunday, I would be a little bit more concerned. But the fact that we're going from Sunday to Sunday, I'm not too overly concerned about it, even when he did come back in. Sure, there was a slight limp, if anything. I think it was more of a shock to the system, if anything, out of that. But I'm not overly worried about it. It's just if it happens again and something like this occurs again, then I would be a little bit more concerned, given the fact that, when he went down, too. He was limping. He was limping fairly well going to the medical tent, but when he came out, you hardly even noticed what came out of it too.
Right, and the crowd went wild when he came back. You could hear a pin drop when he got hurt, and he intended to walked off on his own power, which was a good sign. But it kind of you don't want to have a guy who's been hot these past 3 weeks and have him go down like that, comes back out. Exactly. But I'm not too worried about it. him coming up.
Are we
here.
concerned about those third down drops from Jefferson late in the game too, to kind of really put the game away? That was one thing that I was concerned about too. A couple, the first one was like, all right, I mean, both throws were just kind of like, all right, JJ's expecting to come a little bit away further from his body, but he's set up for a little bit more inside so that way he can catch and go. I mean, those were a couple of catches that really could have put the game away too. But, you can kind of see a little bit of the frustration there on the tail end. Again, the Vikings ended up winning by 4 scores. But, still, are we concerned about the possibility there? Maybe a little bit of the yips there from Justin Jefferson?
I'm not. I trust him. I'm kind of in that boat of trusting Jefferson. Look. And let's even preview this because this is a big matchup. Justin Jefferson and Jair Alexander have long history with one another. Mr. Burnt Toast, and you know who I mean by Burnt Toast, and that is Jair Alexander. This matchup, we didn't get this matchup last year, and Jefferson was injured. And then I believe Jair was suspended because he went out for the coin toss and he's like, oh, coach didn't know us. He's just a weird dude, just a weird guy. And overrated too. But this matchup, I think Jets is going to come in motivated because those two have been jawing at each other. You have Jair doing the gritty right in front of him, even though it was pass interference. It wasn't called. Should have been called. But this, I believe Jefferson is going to be very motivated to, go one-on-one with him. And he shouldn't have safety help if he wants to prove that he's a shutdown corner. Take Jefferson one-on-one. Let's see how it goes. So with the drops that happened, to answer your question, I'm not too overly concerned, but I think knowing what type of player that Jets is, he's probably making note of that in his mind. Like, I can't be dropping these footballs. These should be easy enough for me to, these are easy catches, and he'll be okay. I'm with you. I think he'll be okay, to answer your question. He's Jets. He'll get it. So let's talk a little bit about Sunday real quick.
Yes.
So going up against probably Jordan Love, and I know I said this before, but Jordan Love probably back there. You have a Packers defense that played really well against the Titans and the Colts, but the Titans, the Colts, not particularly great teams. Now you're going up against a 3-0 Viking squad, and we'll see what you're really made of. And a motivated squad as well, with Jefferson, Aaron Jones coming back to Green Bay. So this is a big game either way for each team, I feel like. Yep. And, going into Sunday here, I'm feeling confident about the Vikings' chances. But I asked this of the zoners and of you, Voldy. Do you think that the Vikings come out with a victory at Lambeau on Sunday against the Packers? What do you got?
It's not even a question. You get the Packers at Lambeau, noon kickoff, before it gets cold and nasty out there, daytime kickoff. That's a win for the Vikings. It is 9 times out of 10 a win for Minnesota. Now, it gets really sketchy if you do a primetime game in Lambeau sometime late October into that November time frame. That's when things get a little sketchy. But you get them daytime kickoff at Lambeau. It's still going to be towards the end of September. That's a win for the Vikings. I look at this a matchup, even if it's not going to be Jordan Love. I know things are trending in the right direction for him to come back. I don't think they're still 100% sure if he's going to be starting, but even if it isn't him, I think the Vikings defense will definitely have, like things we've been talking about here the last couple of weeks, with this finesse style defense they do have, anything we learned this past week, I mean, the Vikings definitely have not only that finesse style, but they can also go and get after the quarterback, and they need to, and really, set their presence as well. I really look at like the matchup too with the possibility of the Vikings laying that pressure, whether it be Malik Willis or Jordan Love, and just going up against the veteran defensive backfield that we now have against still a bunch of young receivers that they do have that do have a little bit of experience. But when you have Stephon Gilmore, you've got Byron Murphy, you've got obviously Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum picking up in ways too. I mean, there's still definitely a lot of good things that the Vikings secondary can now bring into this matchup than they were this time last year or even the year before, that there were just too many moving parts the last couple of seasons that just didn't go to the Vikings' way when it comes to this matchup. But I feel like the defensive side, at least the defensive backfield, will have a much stronger presence against the Green Bay Packers receivers than that we've seen the last few years.
So, obviously, not even a question for me, but all I got to say to Packer fans and all you Jordan Love and Jair Alexander, apologists. This is all what I got to say to you.
I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring your ass.
Bring your ass so we can kick it. That's what's going to happen. The Minnesota Vikings, I think, are going to come away with the victory. Sammy Darnold is going to continue his hot streak, and he is going to carve up, hopefully, that Packers defense. And I think Aaron Jones has a great revenge game. Defense plays well. B-Flow gets it going against LaFleur, whatever his stupid-ass name is. So let's get it done. Skull Vikes,
yes, sir.
The whole kit and caboodle. Oh, before I forget, one real quick thing. Stephon Diggs. As you can see, I do have his jersey sitting right over here in this general direction. I didn't hear any boos, really.
No.
They didn't really show him on the screen, but
which is unfortunate.
But a lot of love for Stephon Diggs for the Minnesota Vikings.
Of course.
I respect the way that he handled it, and he was meeting up with guys. Him and Jets had a really good moment there. O'Neal came and talked to him, Bradbury. I mean, all those guys. So he's very grateful for his time here, and, that's a good thing. So technically, no, he was not booed. I think he was more cheered than anything. Signed some autographs after the game, too. I mean, very classy. I'm very happy for Stephon for doing that. So anyway, let's look at the team that really didn't do well this past Saturday in the Gopher football team. The Gophers lost 31-14 after having a 14-7 lead against the Iowa Hawkeyes, and they got it done in the second half. They ran all over us. Gophers made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. And
P.J. Fleck is 1-7 all time against Iowa as the head coach of the Gophers.
Wow.
He said in a quote, Iowa, he didn't say Iowa, he says, came and took it in the second half. This is a 60-minute game. I told our team we played for 30 minutes, and the job of the head football coach is to get his team to play for 60 minutes, and I failed to do that. The quote that P.J. Fleck gave, I appreciate the honesty about how that was, because that's exactly what happened. He puts it on himself. But you know what? After every loss, that's what he does. He puts it on himself and, X, Y, and Z. But you know what? I am getting really sick of that because we're expecting them to be a team that is going to probably make a bowl game or something like that.
Hope so.
Be competitive in the Big 18, whatever the hell, 20, 22, whatever. But if you can't beat the Hawkeyes, which you've only done once in your career, and play like that in the second half, there's a problem. So, Voldy, I asked this of you. This loss to Iowa, real quick, and, I'll give my opinion on this in a second, but I mean, is PJ's welcome wearing out here? I mean, is this getting to a point where decisions might have to be made here these next or after this year if things don't start to improve? What do you think?
You know, we go through this. We've been going through this last couple of years, minus obviously the year where they picked up, you know, obviously a 9-win team. They make the Outback Bowl. But the last couple of years now, looking at it, I mean, this is just starting. It's starting to sing the same old tune. And obviously, we want to beat Iowa. We want to beat Wisconsin. And we want all the trophies in the trophy case. We want to beat Michigan for the little brown jug. But now we're at a point where I don't know what else we got to do. If we got to start all over with a new head coach, then you're setting yourself back maybe a couple of years before we start seeing really strong success. I don't know. I don't know what it is. For some reason, when it comes to Iowa, it's more really about them beating themselves than the Gophers actually beating Iowa itself. Look, as sad as this loss is, I'm just happy by the fact that Iowa decided to actually put up some points in this contest instead of like a 12-10 game or a 13-10 game or something like that. Iowa came out and actually produced some offense for once and not played, field position football for 60 minutes. You give up 200 rushing yards to one guy for Iowa, you don't really deserve to win a football game. When your quarterback throws 2 interceptions, you don't really deserve to win a football game. And then the rushing attack was non-existent for Minnesota. You become really one-dimensional with a passing offense, and that only mustered 200 yards of offense while only putting up less than 80 yards in rushing total for the Gophers. All of that just really on top of just not being able to get Iowa off the field on third down, just letting up big runs and big plays. I mean, 206 yards to one guy rushing, it's not going to get it done. And their quarterback, McNamara, I mean, 11-19, only 62 yards, but it was manageable. Longest pass was only 20 yards, but still, he didn't turn over the football, managed the game, and worked well with the obvious, the rushing game was at its strongest in that contest. All of that boiled down to the fact that maybe, some of the antics that you see from PJ Fleck, and maybe it is starting to is starting to lose its luster and not be so welcoming anymore. It's starting to feel like it, but we'll see how the season goes. I mean, see if we can get a couple more conference wins here and at least get bowl eligible. I don't know anymore.
I'll say this: they're not winning this Saturday against.
Come on,
Michigan.
Come on.
I wish they could. I don't see it happening. I
want the jug, damn it.
So do I. I want the jug too. But you know what? They playing like this, they ain't getting the jug. I'm sorry. Okay. I know Michigan's not as good as they were last year, obviously, but they're still Michigan. They beat USC this Saturday, which was impressive because USC is pretty good too, and now that they're in the Big Ten. Let me say this. This Iowa team literally like the back of your hand. You know what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball. How, in the second half, did you how weren't you able to adjust to what they were doing and clogging up lanes and things like that? What they're going to do. They're not going to pass the ball because their quarterback can't get it that far. You have to shut their run game down. You shut their run game down, you end their whole offense. And the Gophers, from the first half, the first drive that they have, Caleb Johnson, who, again, very good running back, and don't get me wrong, but he goes down, scores a touchdown in the first, and then after that, the Gophers are dominating. I mean, Jamison Greer's 3-yard touchdown catch, Elijah Spencer, 11-yard touchdown pass. How does that happen? I mean, I'm sorry, PJ, but this is another, if you hadn't signed that extension and for any other coach too, I mean, this is a fireable offense. I mean, seriously, this is not something you want to see from your football team, just all of a sudden they made the adjustments. It's like, well, what adjustments did they make? Like, is it like, oh, they went more to the side, they moved this guy here? As a defensive coordinator, whoever the defensive coordinator is for the Gophers, you have to adjust. You have to know what they're doing and whatnot. So, yes, this is on the coaching staff, and this is, I will say, a little bit on the players too. I mean, it's kind of, blame kind of goes all around, but I think if you are the Gophers, and Voldy, you and I have defended PJ Fleck on multiple occasions. And we said, this guy's for real. He knows what he's doing with this. But, you know, we've been promised these recruits that we're going to make a difference, and I'm sorry, I don't see it. Roseberg, I think's doing all right. Second half, he wasn't great, but I think he can, you know, he'll be better. But I don't see them beating Michigan. If they do beat Michigan, I will eat my words. And then we're talking about a whole different thing. But, yeah, I just don't see it. So, yeah, we got to see, like you said, how this season goes on. But I do want to bring up real quick before we move on to where are they now. Their next games after Michigan. USC at home, but again, USC right now, that's probably a loss. At UCLA, I think that's definitely a winnable game. But the fact that you lost to North Carolina, that should have been a win. And the Hawkeyes, I think that's going to come to bite you in the butt. So,
can we also talk about how North Carolina gave up 53 points in the first half to James Madison this past week?
That's right.
Come on. They lost 70-50. 70-50.
Is that basketball score?
Exactly. No. The Dukes just
right.
ran all over North Carolina. Now it just means that James Madison is better than Minnesota.
Boo Birds out. That's terrible.
Bruh.
It's awful.
Brutal.
Yeah. And you wonder why I don't want to talk about the other team that's currently playing right now, but in Minnesota. Trust me. We've said enough about that. Anyway, that'll do it for Hot Take this week. Hopefully the Gophers can figure it out, and if they pull off the upset, I will eat my words and go from there, but I don't think I will be. So, with that being said, Voldy, where are they now? We got benrevere. We've got yannickngakoue. And, it's been a while since we've done Where Are They Now? So I say we throw out a search party and try to find where are they now? Where'd they go?
Check your milk carton. It's time for Where Are They Now?
All right, Voldy, where are they now? We've got two guys, one Viking, one twin, former Viking, former twin, tonight. So, Voldy, would you like to do the honors for us?
Sure, why not? We start off, where are they now? In a player that was supposed to be somewhat of an heir apparent, the time of great center fielders for Minnesota, and a time that we grew up with Kirby Puckett. We went to Torrey Hunter. We went to, well, basically a platoon situation, whether it been Denard Spans, Carlos Gomez, and one benrevere. Yes, and leading way to future center fielders. Of course, you throw in Byron Buxton being one of them. But before Byron Buxton was Byron Buxton, we had young benrevere. Yes, benrevere was drafted 28th overall in the first round by the Minnesota Twins, all the way back to the 2007 Major League Baseball first-year player draft. And, of course, he didn't make his debut, ended up making the roster for the Twins. September call-up in 2010 as a pinch runner for the likes of Denard Span, but, of course, he did not get his first hit and Major League run batted in until the 18th of December in a dark time that was for the Twins in the first year at Target Field in 2010. But still, A lot of promise came through for the young benrevere. Of course, a lot of people knew him for his speed, ability to make up for his lack of an arm out in center field with his speed, and a lot of things started to make towards the right way for benrevere to take over as the, of course, starting center fielder for the Twins, if not an impact in the lineup at the top of the order. Well, after a 21-game hit streak, he finished off his career with the Twins. Well, sadly, just playing in 124 games, 294 batting average, no home runs, 32 RBIs in 2012. But sadly, as we entered that 2012 offseason heading towards 2023, well, the Twins decided to make a move and actually trade benrevere to the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, heading into 2013, now 2013 was a very interesting time, and especially in the short tenure that was for benrevere in Philadelphia. It all happened in a day that happened to be very early on in the season for the Philadelphia Phillies, who are actually on the road in Cincinnati, April 15th, 2013. Now, a lot of people may not remember, but that is the day of the Boston Marathon bombing. Now, on that day, games were still happening. The Boston Red Sox, they were supposed to play an early game because that's the day that they play the game early on the day of the Boston Marathon. Well, after the incidents that did occur during the Boston Marathon, Revere did get word, of course, of what did happen. And on the glove, he put a piece of tape on his glove that said, "Pray for Boston," on a piece of masking tape. When he did obviously get the opportunity to play in that contest against the Cincinnati Reds, he ended up making a spectacular center field diving catch towards a wall, and was just showing, the ability of giving the people something to, have something to take from in a day that was not a very positive one. Of course, his tenure in Philly was fairly short-lived, of course, still amassing the opportunity just to try to be a regular, everyday player in the lineup. Of course, using his speed and his ability to at least track down balls. But again, not making up for the lack of the arm did not help him crack the lineup. He spent a couple of seasons in Philly before being traded to Toronto. Ended up having a couple of cups of coffee in Toronto as well. Ended up being part of the team that was very high impact, if you will, with the Toronto Blue Jays in 2015, bolstered by the AL MVP at that time, former Twin Josh Donaldson, and was a member of that team that made it all the way to the American League Championship Series, but sadly did not make it to the World Series beyond that point. Of course, he was traded yet again. You're sensing a bit of a theme here with the career of benrevere. benrevere ended up getting traded to the Washington Nationals at that point for a relief pitcher and cash considerations. Still struggled to make the lineup on a regular basis, battling injuries and concussions as well through the 2016 season. Even through 2016, ended up getting signed by the Los Angeles Angels. Was bouncing back and forth as the fourth outfielder on that crew. Ended up getting released after that season, signed with the Cincinnati Reds in 2018. Did not get past that minor league deal. Ended up getting re-signed by the Angels in 2018, but did not get longer than a month and a half on the team before getting picked up by the Rangers. Then ended up getting released, picked up by the Blue Jays yet again in 2019, was released shortly a month after his contract was signed. But then shortly after, during actually the pandemic in 2020 as well, he ended up resurfacing as a player coach for the Lexington Legends. That's right. That is a minor league baseball team, which then became members of the Independent Atlantic League of Professional Baseball in 2021, where he was a player and coach during his time, but never got back to the major league level beyond that point. So you're wondering now at this point, dwindling in his career, Major League Baseball, all the way down to independent professional baseball, what is benrevere up to nowadays? Well, even with his time that going from the major league level down to minor league baseball and, of course, independent ball, benrevere has found a way to make an impact, and maybe not at the major league level, but back into the minor leagues as well, where he was serving as a coach for the Florida Complex League Atlanta Braves, the rookie level affiliate. So if he's not going to be doing it on the field as a player, looking to make an impact for the young and up and coming growing prospects for the Atlanta Braves. With benrevere in his time, I mean, there's a couple of things that stand out in my mind in his career with benrevere at the major league level. I think one was the one instance that always comes to mind too was a triple he hit in the right center, I believe, and bounced around, and as he's rounding second base, he ended up doing a full somersault between second and third, and still made it back to third base in time to get in there safely as well. Of course, that catch that he made out in center field in Cincinnati on the day of the Boston Marathon bombings. But at the time, I mean, he's been often described as an energetic, kind of goofy guy overall, but still one heck of a player, given up for the lack of power that he had. I think his first home run was actually an inside the park home run, if memory serves me correct. But still, benrevere was, even with the lack of an arm, he was still fun to watch. Diminutive in size, he could slap the ball around a little bit and still be able to get on base and maybe steal you a bag or two. And a guy like that was surely going to be well accepted here in Twins territory. So where are they now? benrevere is looking to bring up the next round of benreveres at the rookie level for the Atlanta Braves.
Real cool. Loved benrevere. It was a absolute sham when the Twins got rid of him, because him and Denard Span were awesome in the outfield, center field, and whatnot. And of course, the Twins trade him away for Vance Worley and Trevor May. That worked out well. That was a great trade. Good job, Twins. Yay.
Trevor May wasn't terrible. It's just ahead of his time.
I'd rather have benrevere. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd rather have benrevere. That's all. The damn Twins, damn Pohlads, the whole thing. Anyway, great job with benrevere. Hopefully, if he's watching, hey, we'd love to have you on the show. We'd like to talk some Twins, baseball, all that whole thing. So that'd be awesome. So let's go to a guy that's actually, like, usually with Where Are They Now, Voldy, we usually do guys who are done and, kind of go from there. We're not doing that with this one. So I decided, and, no surprise here, I did go with a Viking. Former defensive end and or outside line. We were still in Zim scheme. So, yes, he would be a defensive end. Yannickngakoue. Yes, he was a former Minnesota Viking, if you guys remember, for a hot second, as Voldy likes to say. Let's look back at when he was drafted, things like that. So he played his college football at Maryland in 2013. He recorded as a junior, he set a school record with the Terrapins with 13 and a half sacks. So he did quite well. That's a school record. He would forego his senior season, go to the 2016 NFL draft, where he was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is actually a pretty good pick for them. He definitely was contributed to a lot of their success early on, especially when they did go to the when they went to the AFC Championship game to take on none other than Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. That was a team with Calais Campbell. You had Jalen Ramsey on that squad as well. So, and then they had a very, very good team that season. But Yannickngakoue did quite well for the Jacksonville Jaguars, amassing a lot of sacks, especially when he first started off in the 2016 season. He started over Dante Fowler Jr. in attempt to get him going. So his first season wasn't as great because they fired Gus Bradley after the season, bring in Doug Marrone, and they kept they opted to keep Todd Walsh as defensive coordinator. So he goes in there, does quite well. He finished the season with 12 sacks in 16 games. And they adopted the name Saxonville, especially behind Calais Campbell, who was also on the team with 14 and a half sacks. So 2017 season was really good for Yannickngakoue. So, things were pretty good. 2018 season, 9.5 sacks, 28 total tackles. So obviously he's more of a pass rusher than more like run stopping or anything like that. He's more the guy that's just going to go after the quarterback. 2019, he finished his season with the Jags as well. He played pretty much he missed one game. Yes, one game. And he actually had a defensive touchdown for the Jags, and it was a interception return for a touchdown. So that's pretty cool. But they decided in 2020, the COVID season, as we all know, he said on March 2nd, 2020, on X, formerly known as Twitter, that he would wish to be traded and not want to play for the Jaguars in the future. He had a little bit of a spat with one Tony Khan, the team owner's son, because the Jaguars would not trade him. During their argument, Ngakoue most notably told Khan, "Just trade me." So things not good in Jacksonville. So
Nope.
On August 31st, 2020, who comes to the Minnesota Vikings? Oh, well, you guessed it. Yannickngakoue for a 2021 second-round pick and a conditional fifth-round pick as well. So, there's a lot going on here. So he's with the Vikings. He did fairly well. He didn't go a whole season, though. I'll get to that in a second. But Yannickngakoue, during his time with the Minnesota Vikings, he played a total of 6 games for our Minnesota Vikings, amassing 5 sacks. 5 sacks. And guess what? He was the only Vikings leader in sacks for weeks. Because the Vikings had a bunch of injuries. I think Everson was hurt. Daniil was out for the season for something happened with that. But Yannickngakoue was the guy for a little bit. But little did we know, they trade Yannickngakoue, Spielman, Zim. They trade him on October 22nd, 2020, the same season, to the Ravens for a third-round pick and a conditional fifth-round pick. So the Vikings are like, oh, yeah, we got our pass rusher we need for the season. And then he's gone because, we won't be able to sign him, so we're just getting rid of him. Well, what is going on here? So, Yannickngakoue, I guess, thanks for your time. So he goes to the Ravens, has a pretty good season. I mean, there's so much, especially for being traded, twice in 1 year is surprising in itself. So he goes to the Ravens. He did pretty well. He had a couple sacks for them the rest of that season. He had 3 sacks with the Ravens, and then he goes to Las Vegas. He signs a nice deal with the Raiders, 2-year, $26 million contract. And he led the Raiders in sacks in 2021, his first double-digit sack season since 2017, and he amassed, 10 sacks as a Las Vegas Raider. And then, after that, Yannickngakoue was traded to the Colts in exchange for Rocky Ya-Sin after the Raiders signed Chandler Jones, started 15 games. Forced fumble. He had a team-leading 9.5 sacks, which is pretty good. And then he was placed on injured reserve, Voldy, with a throat injury. I wonder how that happened. So then he didn't go back to the Colts after that. He actually signed with the Chicago Bears, 1-year, $10 million deal. Started 13 games, and then he suffered a broken ankle in week 14, unfortunately for Yannick but he did have 4 sacks with the Bears. So, nothing much was happening this offseason. You didn't hear much with Yannick Ngakoue, but the reason why I did it for Where Are They Now? As of yesterday, the Ravens signed Yannick Ngakoue to their practice squad.
Come on.
Yeah, it was literally a day ago, Voldy. A day ago. Yannick Ngakoue gets on the practice squad for the Ravens. Again,
of course.
I think it's a good fit. I think he's got a little bit left. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. When he's healthy, he can get after the quarterback. Now,
sure.
I think what's been lacking with Yannick Ngakoue is being more of a complete, maybe stopping the run, maybe making tackles out in space a little bit too. But he is very good at rushing the passer. Unfortunately, the Vikings did not hold on to him, which is kind of a weird deal in itself. But, I just think with what he's amassed with the Minnesota Vikings is that they were hoping that they would have him for the whole season and then, work on trying to re-sign him. But Slick Rick was like, nah, we're not going to re-sign him. We don't have enough to re-sign him. It's like, but we only got like a 3rd-round pick and a 5th conditional, which was kind of weird. But even though his time with the Vikings was short, he still had a sack almost in each game. It's just insane to me how that all went down. But to think that he was a Minnesota Viking for like 6 games is insane in itself. But he sacked Deshaun Watson twice when he was with the Texans week 4. So he was very, he got after it. And then he got his first sack as a Viking on Phillip Rivers during that terrible game against them, 28-11 loss to the Colts. And that's when Xavier Rhodes was on that team. And obviously Rivers. And then, Drew Samia was a mess that game. Ugh, that was a rough one. Anyway, so Yannick Ngakoue, where are they now? He's with the Ravens now, and hopefully he does well. And I really liked the way he got after the passer and everything like that. But now that the Vikings have Coach Flo, don't need him. So good luck with your time at the Ravens. So that's where he is now. Yannick Ngakoue, he's back. Broken ankle, healed up. He's good to go. So
he might get elevated. Let's be honest. He gets
for
back
sure.
there. He might get elevated depending on the needs of the Ravens there.
I don't think. Yeah, Jadavian didn't re-sign with them again. That's right. Always on that team. He's a good pass rusher too. So anyway, they could definitely use him. But that's what we got. benrevere, Yannick Ngakoue. Where are they now? Now you know. So. With that being said, Voldy, we got some ARAs to go through, like we said before. Mattboldy going to be ready for the opener. We'll see. Raiders probably going to make a QB change. New Mr. 305 under center. And Ceedeelamb apologizes. And to wrap things up, the Pac-12 poaching teams, possibly. So I say we get it going. What's up? Approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, following the Minnesota Wild's season opener on October 10th, or coming up here very, very soon, October 10th, the Minnesota Wild will be visiting the Columbus Blue Jackets with the start of the preseason taking place here over the last few days for the Wild. The Wild could quite possibly be without one of their star players, as forward Mattboldy is listed as week to week with a lower body injury and might not be ready for the season opener coming off. The 23-year-old coming off a career high 69 points nice this past season, which was third on the team, his third season with the Wild as well. But even entering the second year of his $7 million contract extension could quite possibly hurt the Wild in a few different ways. Of course, the Wild needing that depth of scoring and just bodies as well. As we've seen over the last few years, the Wild have been hurt with injuries and having forced to play shorthanded, pun intended, in a few different areas. But is it absurd or approved? Will the Wild be hurting long-term without Boldy in the lineup to start the season coming up here in a little over a week and a half, possibly even 2 weeks from now?
That is crazy to me now that's approaching now. So, for Boldy, you know, I feel like someone mentioned it to me today that Boldy kind of has started off with some injury issues, you know, for his career. You know, I wouldn't rush him back. If he's not ready for the opener, I wouldn't put him in. But will it hurt long term without him in the lineup? I don't think it's that serious. It could be. It could be, you know, going on here. But the main thing is they definitely need him, especially from the season they had last season. They need all the help they can get, and this is the last year of the Parisi and Suter contracts. So it's time to nut up or shut up here. And the thing is that they can't add anybody till after this season. So let's see some improvement here, because if we don't start to see that, I mean, people are going to start calling for Billy G to be ousted. Now, you know, I know that it's like, well, they're waiting, you know, they're amassing all these picks. The guy that they got in the draft is supposed to be really good, from Denver, I believe, University of Denver, and one of the top defensemen. Apparently was a steal. So, you know, let's hope, because that was a dire need for them. Their defense, their defensemen weren't great. So, will it hurt? Will be hurt? The Wild will be hurt in the long term without Boldy in the lineup. They very well could be. So I mean, I'd probably say stamp of approval. But then again, you know, maybe it's not as serious as you think. He's good to go. He plays in the opener. We're all happy. Let's just try to keep everybody healthy before we get going. So stamp of approval. I think it will hurt, but I don't think it's that serious. So Voldy, what do you think?
I think it really all comes down to what we've seen over the last couple of years is just getting a lineup healthy enough to build enough, you know, consistency come game time. Because we've seen over the last few years, obviously with Boldy, we've seen Marco Rossi bounce back and forth between the minors and obviously the team, Kirill Kaprizov in the lineup, and just building enough consistency in that lineup has been something that has really held the Wild back in a lot of different areas. Sure, the goaltending as well. We've still got Fleury for at least another season. What are we going to do with the spinning revolving door at the goaltending spot? But I think without Boldy consistently in the lineup, that might have a step back for them just a touch. Now, depending on the severity of said injury, or if it's just something, you know, first couple of hits of preseason, then he'll bounce back in time for the opener. We'll see beyond that. But if anything, I'm looking at here with the possibility of guys coming to the Wild and making a name for themselves too. Of course, we'll see regular guys. Of course, we'll see Kirill. We'll see Freddie Gaudreau. You know, we've got Foligno, Johansson, those guys as well. But then you start looking a little bit further down. What's Jacob Lauko going to do being traded from Boston to here? Is Marat Kuznetsov going to make the lineup for the Wild's season opener, or is he going to go down to Iowa for a little while just so that way he can get adjusted to the game here? Yakov Trenin as well, a trade piece that we picked up from Colorado this offseason. Sammy Walker, is he going to be in the lineup for the team come that season opener? There's a few questions as you go further down, but without Boldy in the mix, it's gonna set them back just a little bit. But in this Central Division, you can't really be afforded a lot to be set back from, especially when you look at Colorado, Dallas with a great season last year, Chicago, Winnipeg, St. Louis, Nashville. Oh yeah, let's throw in Utah into the mix now. If things get out of hand early, it's going to be a very uphill battle for the Wild to cruise and pick up points out of that Central Division. Will they be hurt long term without Boldy? I think so, but right now it's a little bit of a non-issue just because it's still preseason, first handful of games coming up here at the start of the season. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah. We shall see. It's coming up. Should be fun. All right. Next one, Voldy.
Well, with the ever-changing world that is in the NFL world and possibly making business decisions over professional and playing decisions, the Las Vegas Raiders are finding themselves in a situation that could quite possibly lead to a change at the quarterback position. Now, following, unfortunately, a loss that did take place this past week at the hands of the Carolina Panthers, of all people, in their home facility at Allegiant Stadium, the Las Vegas Raiders and head coach Antonio Pierce, I should say, took to conversations, quite possibly changing things up ahead of their next contest, a home game against the Cleveland Browns. Now, of course, the start of the season has been bolstered by recent offseason signing Gardnerminshew, and after the play of the last couple seasons with Aidanoconnell, who has stepped in the past an injury, and also starting as well, very much a possibility we could see a possible change. Now, when Pierce was asked Monday in a press conference, which was delayed more than an hour because of meetings with his staff, whether O'Connell would success meant anything or not for Minshew, barring the fact that it was a 36-22 loss at the hands of the Carolina Panthers. Well, it was Pierce saying that, quote, I think we've got to get with the players and just evaluate everything from Sunday first. Now, there has been a little bit of conversation taking place, but it seems that things are trending towards the direction of Gardner Minshew getting the start coming up here on Sunday for the Raiders over taking on the Cleveland Browns. But is it absurd or approved? Should the Raiders switch Gardner Minshew in favor of Aidan O'Connell?
It's a great question. I said this to, I believe it was Papa Callahan. We were at the game. We're just talking NFL stuff and whatnot. And, I just was saying to him, I was like, we were, going through the games. They have like NFL Red Zone up on the board, which is really cool.
Yep.
Sometimes during the game. And, they showed the Raiders and the Panthers, excuse me, wrong feline.
Yep.
I said, I just feel like they're just a fraud team, and I say that because, yes, Max Crosby's good. He's very good. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But Devontae obviously is a stud. No ifs, ands, or buts. Jacoby Myers, very good wide receiver too.
Right.
But what do they have after that? I mean, name me a Las Vegas Raider that you're like, ooh, this guy is pretty good. Alexander Madison? Probably not. This to me, I feel like is just a mess that they're just like, they made a decision really quick after they got rid of Josh McDaniels, which again, they should have and whatnot. And they decided, you know what? We're just going to go with Antonio Pierce. And it's, it was all fine and dandy that the rest of the year and whatnot, but man, they really haven't, they've been laying eggs and not doing what they're supposed to. So it sounds like with Gardner Minshew, I think it's smart to keep him in unless things go absolutely terrible and things don't improve. Then you can throw in Aidan O'Connell, but Aidan O'Connell is not a guy that I would trust yet unless he's been really working on, stuff. And obviously he was, he was in the game for a little bit, and it just kind of, it seems to me that they have a quarterback conundrum. They couldn't go and trade up for a guy or, whatnot in the draft. But yeah, I think it's a good idea just to stick with Gardner-Minshew at this point. I think Minshew probably gives you a better chance to win than Aidan O'Connell does. But when they said they're making business decisions, hopefully it wasn't Gardner-Minshew. Hopefully it wasn't. But some of the guys on that team need to take a good hard look at themselves too. Mm-hmm. But then again, calling out your team like that, I don't know how well that's going to go over. Just saying. So, I think Minshew being there, stamp of approval. O'Donnell, I just think this guy needs to get more experience a little bit, sitting behind him. So, Voldy, what do you got?
I think looking at the matchup that they've got coming up here on Sunday against the Browns, I think Minshew is the way to go. Just given off the fact that he has faced, a lot more formidable competition in his time in the NFL. I know Gardner Minshew's bounced around the last few years. He's gone from team to team since his days in Jacksonville. But it's not that Aidan O'Connell is bad. It's just that I don't think beyond him being a backup quarterback, there's enough in there to say that he can be a surefire, starting quarterback for the Raiders or in the NFL as well. Again, nothing against Aidan O'Connell. He's done a very serviceable job when he stepped in the last couple years for the Raiders. But I think Minshew does provide a little bit more of that moxie. Again, I could care less what happens with the Raiders. If they beat the Chiefs, that's awesome, given the fact that I'm wearing Chiefs garb here tonight. Funny that I'm talking and making fun of the Chiefs in that regard. I think that Minshew is probably the better choice in that. I think there's just a lot more to him than there is with Aidan O'Connell. I think they should stick with Minshew for sure.
Minshew mania. It's still running wild.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. All right. From one quarterback conundrum to another, Voldy.
Yeah, we stick here with the NFL and, of course, Miami Dolphins. Still without Tua Tagovailoa here for the next handful of weeks. And even this past week with Skylar Thompson, who started, left the game early due to a rib injury against Seattle Seahawks, which then he was replaced with former backup in Tim Boyle. Now, Thompson is listed as day-to-day as of yesterday, and McDaniel is open to the possibility of either starting Tim Boyle or the recently signed Tyler Huntley, who was the backup to Lamar Jackson in Baltimore the last few years. Of course, Thompson was fairly ineffective in a loss to the Seattle Seahawks with those 9 offensive drives that last no longer than 5 plays apiece. But then, coming in, Tim Boyle didn't really do much beyond that. But with the familiarity of Boyle on the team as opposed to Tyler Huntley, there is the possibility that with the Dolphins, who are looked in coming into the season as being a hot commodity and product out of the AFC East, to quite possibly be a very high contender for them this season. But looking at the situation and another quarterback battle that we have down in Miami, is it absurd or approved? Is Tyler Huntley the better option at quarterback than the current backup and now former third stringer in Tim Boyle?
Yes, and I say that because Tyler Huntley, in games that he's filled in for Lamar even, he has done quite well. And again, no disrespect to Skylar Thompson and just the reality of the situation with the concussion to Tua and everything like that. I just think that they'll give him a little bit more juice. And Huntley's mobile now. He's not going to sit in the pocket and get sacked and everything. But the guy can run. Mm-hmm. So
right.
I think it would be a smart idea to put in Huntley just to kind of give them some offense. I mean, they need it. And Skylar Thompson, but Tim Boyle, come on. Tim Boyle. Seriously. You know what I mean? No, and again, I say that just because, he's not a starter, and he played for the Jets last year. He didn't really have he was pretty bad in that.
Yeah.
Was it that Thanksgiving game or whatever? It was the day before Black
so.
Friday. It was the Black Friday
Yep.
one. I remember that.
Mhm.
Shoot, yeah, that's crazy. So Huntley, it's got my stamp of approval. I think that it's going to give him a little bit more juice. McDaniel can do things with him, get him out of the pocket, move around, maybe run for some yards. And I think it's going to help Tyreek. I think Jalen Waddle's still healthy. I don't have him on my fantasy team, but I think they'll be more effective with that. Devon Achane is healthy, and utilize him a little bit.
Yep.
And this team, I feel like will have a little bit more juice because it sounds like Tua will be out maybe 3 more games. But who knows? I mean, things could change if the neurologists say, I wouldn't be playing, things like that, if things change with that. So, stamp approval. Go with Huntley. Woldy, what do you got?
Now, I feel like with Huntley, you're not going to get the same playability as Tua, but you're going to get something close to it. We've seen Tyler Huntley step in for Lamar at times. When Lamar was injured, he came in. I mean, I'm not saying that, Tyler Huntley is Lamar or Tua, but he's definitely a better option when it comes to, obviously, mobility and stretching things out as opposed to Tim Boyle. He did only get signed this past week, so I think getting him familiar with the system that they have down in Miami is going to be a little bit more of a benefit, if not, just getting him comfortable. Let's keep things simple. Let's maximize what you can do on the field, get the ball into the fastest receivers in the game's hands and rely on that run game as well. I think Huntley is the better option for sure. So it's got my stamp of approval too.
Just the reality of the situation that you're in for the Dolphins and trying to sneak a win here or there until Tua gets back, if he gets back. That being said. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, we head also to the world of the NFL. We stay there, I should say. And, of course, a lackluster performance and the Dallas Cowboys. Those two things in the same sentence have never been said before. But following a loss at the hands of the Baltimore Ravens, All-Pro wide receiver CeedeeAmb did not talk to reporters following a loss to the Ravens in which he lost a fumble and dropped a pass in what looked to be also a little bit of a sideline spat with his quarterback in Dak Prescott. There were also times as well where saw him sitting on his helmet on the sideline, not involved in the offense, unfortunately, which was a near comeback win for the Dallas Cowboys, but still ended up being a loss. And well, it was earlier this week that CeedeeAmb did come out and say that he apologized and it was apologetic for his performance and how he handled himself on the sideline, saying that he played, quote, a big part in Sunday's defeat. He also acknowledged that his body language and attitude, quote, did not help the situation or the outcome of the game. Of course, just being, quote, professional about the whole situation, understanding it's a long game. Also, now with CeedeeAmb, kind of another one of these receivers that when the chips are down, he is definitely going to let everybody know about it and definitely try to win the favor back of his teammates. Now with the Cowboys sitting at, I believe, they're 1-2 on the season here.
Correct.
A game coming up tomorrow night against the New York Giants as well. Is it absurd or proof? Will CeedeeAmb be able to rebound back from his antics this past Sunday and win favor back from his teammates?
Remind me again, Voldy. What number does CeedeeAmb wear?
88.
Who also was 88 and had that kind of same?
Dez Bryant.
Dez Bryant. God, I just, for some reason, and this isn't, I mean, that was Dez being Dez. We know that whole, deal.
Yep.
But, man, did he act like Dez on Sunday.
Seriously.
Man, I mean, it was shades of that, but it was less intense, I will say. But he said, he obviously said, throw me the effing ball after talking with Dak and somebody else. I forget who else he was talking to. But I think I would say yes. And the reason why I do say yes to this is because, look, you're not going to get it from the Dallas Cowboys defense because some coach on that squad is really stuck in his ways, and obviously with all that time off, didn't really adapt and add some new wrinkles and stuff like that. And I think you know who I'm talking about in that instance after that. But I just had to throw a shot. But for CD, listen, they have a very good offense. Like it or not, Dak can get the ball out to his receivers. Now, the question is, can they get the running game going? Because you have the corpse of, or the carcass of Zeke Elliott running the ball for you. You have a Dowdle. You have, who's it? Deuce Vaughn, or whatever. But remember, you have Dalvin Cook on your practice squad. I'd give it a shot. Bring up Dalvin. I still think he's got stuff left in the tank. Definitely more than Zeke. I mean, that's just me. But I think if they were to, get more of a spark that they wanted, and I think they can utilize the run game a little bit more, and also open up more opportunities for CeeDee Lamb. And I think he will. I think it's got my stamp of approval. He is going to rebound this next game, because let's remember, they play the Giants. The Giants aren't very good, but they did beat Cleveland. Jones actually played somewhat decent, which is surprising in itself. But look, if Zim if Zim can't get it done against Daniel Jones and the Giants, I mean, this is going to be a high-scoring game. So my guess is that it's going to be high-scoring, and Dak is going to be finding CD a lot. So, stamp approval. He's going to rebound and have a hell of a game. So, Voldy, what do you got?
I mean, you look at it and you want, I shouldn't even say want. You just would like to see things kind of come ahead for the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to at least stop being a huge dumpster fire. They can be a little bit of a dumpster fire, but at least enough to be competitive. Sure, they made a late run and a late possibility of winning against the Baltimore Ravens, which definitely would have set the Ravens back huge if they would have lost to the Cowboys in that contest. They'd be looking at 0-3 at this point, as opposed to 1-2. But with CeeDee Lamb, you kind of see them, but they invested a lot of money into him, obviously, this offseason, and gave him that big contract. And if he's not out there, what really good is he beyond that point? And, the offense really did kind of suffer without him in the lineup. Sure, they're able to make some plays. They got Jake Ferguson at tight end. They've got Zeke somewhat involved. They've got, a couple of no-name. They got Brandon Cooks a little bit, but beyond that, CeeDee Lamb is kind of the featured guy in that offense, at least enough to be name-worthy and recognizable to the greater audience besides diehard Cowboys fans. I mean, will he be able to win favor back? I mean, you got to show it, honestly. And with the Giants coming up, it's going to be put up or shut up for them and for CeeDee Lamb as well. If they don't get it done, I mean, they're looking at possibly 1-3, and especially against the Giants too. Not exactly strong, but
good.
They've got a few defensive players, but offensively, they've got some work to do on that side, and they were surprisingly able to beat the Cleveland Browns in that one. I mean, they got Malik Neighbors the ball, so I mean that certainly helps. True. And get him going. That's going to be a huge impact for the Giants offense. I think he will be able to win favor back of his teammates. I think it's going to be one of those, you got to show me something for that really to take place.
Let's not forget, he did something that Dez never did. Apologize for his behavior.
Yes.
I mean, I give him credit for that, for at least being like, look, I didn't make it any better. So props out to CD for that. All right. Last one of all day.
We head to the world of college football, where the Pac-12 conference, right now the Pac-2, looking to become the Pac-8 in a couple of seasons. Well, they filed a lawsuit in federal court on Tuesday challenging the legality of a, quote, poaching penalty included in a football scheduling agreement it signed with the Mountain West Conference back in December. Now, with Oregon State and Washington State looking to fill out their 2024 football schedules in the wake of the Pac-12 conference collapse, they came to terms with the Mountain West in a one-year agreement that would add 6 conference opponents from the Mountain West Conference to remaining Pac-12 schools scheduling for this coming season. Now, part of that agreement, the Mountain West included language that requires the Pac-12 to pay a fee of $10 million if a school left the Mountain West Conference for the Pac-12 with escalators of $500,000 for each additional school. Now, with reports also coming out that Utah State, a Mountain West Conference school, looking to join the Pac-12 as recent as, I believe, coming up here in 2025. Now they're looking at where's that money going to be coming here, because it was also announced this past couple of weeks that Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State will be leaving the Mountain West for the Pac-12 conference. So basically they're looking at the Mountain West is suing the Pac-12 for taking all their teams to get their to build up the other conference as well. And where's that money going to be coming? But the Pac-12 is saying, no, it's not written down on paper. It's not going to really, we're not ponying up the dough anytime soon. Now, is it absurd or approved? Should the Pac-12 be penalized for getting Utah State and these other Mountain West Conference schools to join their conference coming up?
What a mess. What a mess. I mean,
college football is weird.
It's so weird. And the amount of teams that are trying to form these super conferences and things like it's ridiculous. You can't keep things the way they were before.
No.
Now, I get that you want to try and survive with this, but you got to do it the right way. And I know, it's kind of, well, you got to do this or you got to do that. Well, you got to pay a fine if you're going to do it. It's like, you can't figure it out for yourselves. You can't bring over teams that, if they want to go to a conference, just let them do it. This whole mixing the conference thing, mixing up conferences and going into a different one and, trying to, make it. But look, stop. It's just annoying. It's both sides, I feel like, on this. And I understand from the Mountain West, they, saying like, look, this is stupid. We're going to lose all these teams, which I understand. But at the same time, then you got the Pac-12 being like, well, we're losing teams. We need teams. And it's just an absolute dumpster fire of a situation. Look, figure it out for yourselves. It's tough for me to put an absurd or approve because it's like, shoot, maybe they both should be penalized. I don't know. But the NCAA won't do anything because it's the NCAA. They don't know what the hell they're doing half the time. So, were they poaching? Probably. I'm sick of this whole conference. See, teams going to, schools going to other conferences and things like it's like, just keep it the way it is. Stop trying to make it like, oh, we gotta make this better. It's just stop. Just figure it out and go from there. I'm already sick of the Big Ten with all these teams that are in it. So it's like you can't win a Big Ten conference championship, and only if you're Michigan and or like Oregon or teams like that. And it's like the Gophers won't even have a shot. Which, granted, we all kind of knew that, but yeah, sure, you know what? Fine, they can be penalized. I don't care. Stamp approval. Voldy, what do you got?
You see, there's a lot here with the realignments of conferences and everybody switching left, right, and center that nothing is really put down on paper. It's all just kind of word of mouth. Hey, gentleman's agreement. That's what we've got here with this situation. There was an expectation that the Pac-12 was supposed to pay when these schools jumped from the Mountain West to the Pac-12. The fact that it's an expectation, not saying, yes, this is the rule, this is the law, this is what's going to happen. It could be up to $55 million that the Pac-12 has to pay, with now Utah State accepting an offer to leave, on top of Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State. So a possible $55 million on the table here. But now it's just all jumping back and forth. It's like, oh, we said we were going to do this. Like, well, it wasn't written down on paper, so therefore it's your word against mine, and we're not going to be paying any of it. College football in this regard is just, it just makes it worse even to watch, because you just look at it like we had USC Michigan the other day, a game that should be played on January 1st, not in the middle of September, and it was a conference game. Like, this is the world we now live in, that we've got Tennessee versus Oklahoma in the middle of September as a conference game in the SEC. What are we doing? I hate it. I'm not a fan of it. I don't want it anymore. I hate this. This is so weird. I am extremely uncomfortable, and I just want it all to go away. I mean, it is just completely insane how this is all happening. And now you've got conferences at each other's throats, where both these conferences could very well be defunct in a couple of years based off this rate. And is it absurd or approved? I mean, the Pac-12 is desperately hanging on to an idea that died as soon as all the other schools left, and you went from 12 down to 2. I think it's, should they be penalized? No, I don't think so. They need all the help they can get. The Mountain West also needs all the help that they can get, because their conferences are circling the drain right now. I think it's absurd. I don't think anybody should be. They're already punished enough just based off of schools just jumping ship left and right. It's completely
and it's
absurd.
like you're not only punishing the players and the whole deal with this, you're punishing the fans too. I mean, this is insane what you're doing with this. So whatever, it is what it is. So we're on to Cincinnati, as Coach Belichick likes
we
to
are.
say. So all right, great job with Air Raid this week of Volde. So we got Shield shoutouts to get through tonight. It'll be good as always. A couple of familiar names, and let's get it going. What's up? Shield shoutouts.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, Shield, who ya shout out tonight?
Well, unfortunately, this week we did learn the unfortunate news that former Minnesota Vikings quarterback Brett Favre was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and that was actually found out back in January of all times. But an announcement made up here in court as well for Brett Favre. So we would like to send our thoughts and well wishes to the Favre family after that announcement, and pray for a good fight out of the old Silver Fox himself, that he'll definitely be running and gunning against this very unfortunate and deadly disease in Parkinson's. And we do have to say best of luck in retirement coming up for Colorado Rockies outfielder charlieblackmon, as he did announce here this week. I'll be hanging him up here very, very soon, with Major League Baseball season set to come to an end here in less than a week's time. Blackmon spending his majority of his career out in the Denver area and in Colorado, of course. In fact, him being a part of that franchise when the announcement did take place here this week that one of his former teammates in Nolan Arenado in St. Louis was able to make the press conference, because the Rockies were actually playing in St. Louis. So that allowed former teammates to connect. In fact, both of them together in their time in Colorado actually played in 4 All-Star games together. So we do wish the best of luck to the longtime Colorado Rocky, charlieblackmon, in his future post-baseball career. That's going to do it for Shield Shoutouts this week.
Great job. The Favre news is tough. And look, no matter what you think about the guy after the whole issue with the volleyball thing and the charities and things like that, listen, Parkinson's is no joke. Like, I mean,
no, it is not
something I would wish on anybody.
No.
And no matter how you feel about the guy, you sympathize with him because he is a human being. I mean, it's really sad, and you really feel for Brett and his family, and it seems like they're approaching it the right way and going from there. So, really sad news about that. So,
yeah.
Anywho, great job, Shield Shoutouts as always, Voldy.
Thanks, sir.
And you know the deal, zoners. You know it. It's the pick'em. Pick'em. Yes, get those
set,
picks
folks.
in. Get them set. You can do it ahead of time if you'd like. Congratulations to Ellefson. We will find out who we are here very soon.
If
so
you're
you
a real
get this.
person, I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll find out. And if not, well, we'll have to discuss and figure out who we can get that to. So, make sure you get those picks in, and also to our listener league, make sure saw some waivers go out, so you guys are on top of that, and get those lineups set. And if you're just like, screw it, I just want to buy the stuff, you can buy this hat. It's $20, $5 shipping for this bad boy, and the camo hat as well. We got sweatpants. Guys, fall just started. I mean, literally. The weather's getting a little bit cooler. This week it's about 80, 78. We're getting there. We're getting there. So we got the sweatpants for you guys, the winter caps. We got the tumblers. We've got the stickers as well. Just gave some off to some zoners as well the other weekend. And we got plenty of merch. You guys want it? We got it. So as well as the quarter zips. I know that's coming up too. So quarter zips are still available. All right. That being said, let's talk to a St. Thomas Academy Hall of Famer, Will Rattel, W2 performance.
Sir.
Congratulations to Will Rattel on making the Athletic Hall of Fame at St. Thomas Academy. Will did run into Papa Callahan, and he said he will be in contact with us, and we have been in contact with him. So we will get Will Rattel here back on, talk a little bit about that, get into the hall, and I believe Red Pepper's probably on the dock, or maybe not. We'll see. You never know. But make sure you check out his stuff at www.w2performance.com. And thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for the stickers. And make sure you check out the latest episode of the Brotherly Ballers podcast with Tyler Hermann and Jack Vickers. Jack and I have been talking, and there's a lot to be said with fantasy football these past few weeks. And make sure you keep up to date with that stuff as well. Make sure you check out TLS Performance, our guy, former Gopher Troy Stoudemire Jr. Make sure you check out his Instas, socials, the whole deal. And make sure you check out on the YouTubes and the socials, Popcorn Bucket List with Nick Dahlhoff and Ryne Myhrberg of the Rhino, Omni Entertainment. Make sure you check those guys out for all the movies and stuff like that. So, with that being said, that's going to do it for episode 208. Voldy, Skull Vikes, Roll the Boat, Sky Umago, Gophers, Twins. Well, we'll get to that.
Twins are twins. Yep.
We'll go from there. But let's have a great weekend, and we will be back next week with more. Hopefully, a Vikings victory. Hopefully, a Gopher victory. We'll see. So, with that being said, remember, as always, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla! Awkward.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.